With my 35 years of experience, our team at US Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call US Asset Management today and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with US Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call US Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. It is good to be here today. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Wow, there's a lot going on. You know, last week we put out several stories last week, and I appreciate each and every one that shares our work. I really do. I appreciate it. And all the messages and the comments, I always do it. I never want to, always want to make comment on how much I appreciate the messages and how kind. And then there's those, those out there, right? But anyhow, I had to wait a couple days because some things are developing, and sometimes I like to let things develop to see how I'm going to present some stories. And I try to study the politics side of it and where the direction is going and the narrative, So I think right now, let me give you the 4 stories that I'm going to touch on today. All right. I went to, I'll get that in a minute. What did you do this weekend? Check this out. That's right. That's right. I canned 10 quarts tomatoes. Ready. And then, I don't know about you, but my mom used to make it for me when I was a kid, and she would make it all the time. Just macaroni, elbow macaroni and tomatoes. So after I finished up, and I won't bore you very long with canning 10 quarts of tomatoes, I had enough sauce, right, that I made a little macaroni and tomatoes. Wow, that was nice. So here's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you 4 main subjects. Now, this weekend in Floyd County, Georgia, we have national audience. We have an international audience. In Floyd County, Georgia, which happens to be in the 14th Congressional District of Georgia, in Rome, Georgia. How many times did I say Georgia? Rick Jackson, Republican candidate for governor, bumped into Mike Collins, Republican candidate for Senate, U.S. Senate, running against Jon Ossoff. So we're going to talk about that. Why they finally took a picture together and bumped into each other. I'm going to break that down. All right. Now let's go into the next one we're going to talk about is why 2 GOP mayors, all right, this made a lot of news going into the weekend. It got national coverage, right? Which is John Ossoff, right? Why 2 GOP mayors are crossing party lines for John Ossoff. Their endorsements give the Democrat incumbent fresh support in a region where his party has struggled. Nothing like another positive story for John Ossoff, but we're going to go into detail on that. Because a lot of times you see some of these things, and even if it's on Fox News, which, unless you're new to the program today, in fact, we should welcome you to the program. If you are new, I do not watch Fox News. Yes, I know. I heard that all the way through the camera. I do watch Morning Joe. So here's another one we're going to talk about, right? There's 3. Actually, there's a couple, but here's 3 main ones. Mike Collins, right? Rick Jackson, John Ossoff, 2 Republican mayors endorse him. Here's the next one, right? Affordability. Affordability. And that's where we're going to start. And I'm going to tell you why I'm starting there. Because this one here, I am wondering, and I'm watching everything on the Rick Jackson campaign. In fact, I went to Appalachian Gun and Pawn in Pickens County, Georgia, Jasper, to a Rick Jackson event this weekend. I listened to his stump speech. And I'm a little confused because I have to tell you, I think right now, I go back to Bill Clinton. And as you well know, I am a Republican. I'm a Republican. Let's clear the air. I'm voting for Rick Jackson. Let's clear the air. We know that, right? But right now, I hearken back to Bill Clinton. I feel your pain. And I'm trying to figure out why exactly are Republicans leaving that on the table? Okay. Young people, when I say young people, the voting group from 18 to 40, they're upset. DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, radical candidates, radical Democrats, they're gaining ground. So why, to me, are Republicans leaving this on the table? And I have to scratch my head on it. And yes, there is a percentage out there that support Donald Trump in a way that if Donald Trump says the economy is great, no matter how much they are struggling today in any way whatsoever, Donald Trump said the economy is great. But I'm going to tell you something. I've often said that you can't change human nature. You can't go telling people how they feel. Really. Stop telling someone how they feel. Understand people and meet them where they're at. So you're struggling a little bit, you really don't feel that way. Here, I'm going to tell you how you really feel. Now, when you get a call from your daughter or son on the way to high school this morning because they're back in school and they had a flat tire, and you're on the way to work, you can't turn around, mom's on the way to work, she can't turn around, and you have to call a service, and it's $125 just to go out and fix this tire on the way to school. I'm just saying things, all right? And then all of a sudden someone says, you feel fine. Wow. Glad you told me that. Now, the reason I bring that up, and I'm not going to belabor it, it's I'm listening to different political speeches, and I did say this out loud, and I will say it and look you right in the eye. Okay? I think President Trump will not say affordability and calls it a hoax. And I really don't like the word affordability. Okay. I am so old. How old are you, BKP? That I call it making a living. You know, it's getting tough out there making ends meet. It's getting tough out there making a living. It's getting tough buying shoes for the kids. All the above. Been there, done that. But I think President Trump won't say affordability because he didn't coin it. Democrats did, whether you like it or not, they did. And I don't think Democrats have the answer, or any of the policies they want to put in place are the answer. But the reality is, what you have in your pocket today, what you're able to spend, is how you feel you're doing. Now, right here, Trump boasts about the economy, but there's more to the story, right? So President Trump is supposed to be out talking about positives, right? We have a war in Iran, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, all right? And what I try to bring into is out of the echo chamber. Because whether you want to admit it or not, 95%, we'll give it 5%. 95% of Americans are outside the echo chamber, and they're not looking at elections, maybe. They're not. And they're not looking at Trump accounts. You know, when your kids come home from school, in the first week of school, you got 3 kids in school, and you go through the book bag, right? You go through the book bag, and there's all these clubs they want to sign up for, and the dues are $35 or $45 to sign up for the club. And then there's the sign up for this sport, and there's the sign up for this sport, right? And there is, kid wants to take music, but you've got to go rent the flute or the violin or the fiddle, wherever you may be, right? Exactly. All the things that the realities are, and the shoes they have to have for this activity, or you're going on a trip and every family has to come with $150. All this is coming in on you. But don't worry, honey. We have a Trump account. Now, I'm not against the Trump accounts or think they're terrible. I haven't given them a second thought. They don't affect me whatsoever. Right? They don't. And our children, there's really no telling how they will affect them in the future. So he's supposed to be out there talking about the economy, but he won't say affordability. He denies it. He talks about how great the stock market is. And it didn't work for this guy, right? Remember this? You remember Joe Biden and Kamala Harris tried to tell you, this is my concern. I'm just shooting straight with you guys. Here is my concern, and let me pull this over. I want you to hear this. It's about a minute and a half. Could sound a little boring, but I think it's worth the play.
That primarily this morning's job report shows the economy added more than 250,000 jobs in December. That the unemployment rate has dropped below as low as 4.1%. And all told, in 4 years, we've created 16.6 million new jobs, the most of any single presidential term in history. We did it by fundamentally changing the economic policy of this country. After decades of trickle-down economics that primarily benefited those at the very top, Kamala and I and our administration have written a new playbook that's growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up that benefits everyone. The new playbook is working. We've created jobs every single month I was in office. During my presidency, we saw the lowest average unemployment rate of any administration in the last 50 years. And battling through the worldwide effects of the pandemic, Putin's war in Ukraine, and supply chain disruption, inflation rate is down to nearly 2%. These are simple, well-established economic benchmarks that measure the strength of any economy, the success or failure of any president's 4 years in office. I believe the economy I'm leaving is the best in the world and stronger than ever for all Americans. So I think that's what we have. We'll see what the next president does.
You didn't believe it then, right? You didn't believe it then? When Joe Biden said that the economy is getting stronger, right? Did you believe it? No. Did you buy it at the ballot box when he said that? No, you didn't buy it. You didn't say, well, when they tried to sell you how you feel? No. You said inflation is through the roof. It's costing a lot of money. And you elected Trump. There are 7, 8 different groups. We'll go through those at a different time that elected Trump for multiple reasons. But the independent voters, the families out there, for the most part, people did not buy that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris had a grip on the economy, and that's why Trump got elected. Trump told you, President Donald J. Trump told you this was not acceptable. He told you he would turn it around immediately. Now, I'm going to get pushback. I'm going to get the people that say, well, do you realize the disaster Joe Biden and Kamala Harris left? I absolutely do. Do you realize that you can't just turn this mess around or this ship around? You have to lay the groundwork. You have to dismantle this entire mess. We've got problems in the world that coincide with the mess that Biden had made, and Jake Sullivan and the former Secretary of State. Yes, I do. I understand that. Well, if you understand that, why are you judging President Donald Trump this way or saying, well, this is a problem now? I'm not exactly blaming President Donald Trump. Donald Trump told you, the President of the United States told you he could turn it around. Told you he would do it on day one. Start making these changes. Now he has to live up to it. And it's not like President Donald Trump. You see, people elected President Donald Trump, a lot of voters, because they remember the 2016 economy and how that engine was turning before COVID. And they trusted President Donald Trump. And I have to tell you this. President Donald Trump, it's not like 2016, maybe he went into the White House naive. Maybe in 2016, he went in there not knowing exactly all the things he could do immediately to turn things around or implement his policies. He was not new to the White House. He was not new to the Situation Room, the cabinet room, a cabinet, how it functioned. So he made you promises. That's why people are holding him accountable now for the promises he made. Now, let me play this for you because I have to scratch my head. I've got people calling me saying, why is Trump saying this? Okay. Now, let me find my...
Well, and that's because of me. Biden was against all this. I don't think Biden had it. Biden was against all this. No. And that's because of me. Biden was against all this. I don't think Biden had any idea what it was. But our country right now is doing better than it's ever done. You know, when I see polls on the economy, I should have 150%, not 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have the greatest. This is the golden age of America. What's being built now in this country has never, ever been built. And we are literally in the golden age of America. And
Rick knows what it's like.
You be the judge. I mean, do you feel you're in the golden age of America? Do you feel he should be, his polling numbers on the economy should be 150%? I mean, I'm serious. You didn't buy that on Joe Biden. I'm just saying that the affordability issue. Let me show you something. This is a picture from a gas station somewhere in Gwinnett this morning. Diesel was $5.59 at this gas station in Gwinnett, right at $5.60. $5.60. So I'm going to tell you this really brief story and we'll move on from affordability. But I'm concerned as we go closer. You know, there's some people that say, I don't like the phrase baked in the cake, right? I don't like that when we say it's baked in the cake, right? But we are so close to the election. I mean, it's August 10th. Early voting in Georgia starts second week of October. That where we stand now, it's the issues are set up of what we're going to deal with going into November, the election. So let me just say this, and I'll only use fuel for an example because where I go to get a haircut, the lady that cuts my hair, very nice lady, cuts my hair. And I use her for an example for a reason. Because she is aware politically of what's going on, but she's busy all day cutting hair. And I say that because You're busy all day working, your wife's working, your husband's working, you're busy. You don't have time to fixate on every political issue going on out there. So I'm fortunate enough when I go get a haircut, she saves up all her political questions for me. So before the election, the 2024 election, she asked me a question. She said, you know, Donald Trump, President Trump says that he could turn the economy around immediately. This is the conversation. He can get it turned around immediately. Do you think he can really get it turned around and do it quickly to where we will feel it? That was the question. And I said, yes, absolutely. She said, how does he do that? I said, fuel. Americans' money goes in their pocket and comes out of their pocket directly at the gas pump. Small business, money goes in their pocket or comes out of their pocket directly at the gas pump. And she said, well, explain that to me. I said, well, first of all, let's say we go down a full $1 a gallon for gas immediately. Trump comes in, we go down a full $1. And mom and dad are working, and we'll use a round number. And we won't talk about the kids going to school, like high school kids that are cars in the driveway from your high school kids. We won't even get into that number. But mom and dad are going to work, and they're immediately going to both have $25 each put back in their pocket. Gas comes down $1, 25, a week's worth of gas. That's $50 a week for this family. That's $200 a month. That's real money that just got pushed back into their pocket. Now, on that $200 a month, they could do a couple different things. Doesn't sound like a lot. We'll use a small number. They could do a couple things. They could take that $200 a month and start paying down on those credit cards. Or they can take the $200 a month and maybe go to the movies where they haven't been going to the movies, or an extra trip out to eat, or take the $200 a month now and go to one of the box stores and buy that washer. Everything turns. That's an economic engine. So we're using a very, very conservative number, but just 2 adults in a home can automatically generate $200 a month, just like that, back in their pocket. And they'll see it. The other thing it does, it makes them feel better. Makes them feel things are going in the right direction. Makes them feel more confident and comfortable about what if they were trying to get a mortgage. We're not talking about the interest rates. We're just using fuel as an example. And that house was going to be $1,200 a month. And they said, we can only afford $1,000, but now they feel they can afford the $1,200. Every single switch changes right then. Now, small business. Let's flip the switch the other way. Small business, right? They immediately save $1.50. Let's use the guy out there that's got 5 bread trucks. I don't know. 5 milk trucks. Whatever. Pick a business. And he's buying 30 gallons of fuel because that truck runs all day. Buys 30 gallons of fuel a day, maybe. Fuels up every morning. Now, I was in business with trucks that we put that fuel in every morning. 30 gallons every day. And he saves $1.50 a gallon. Saves it immediately. And then, so he's got 5 trucks. That's $225 a day that small business saves. That's $1,125 a week. That's $4,500 a month. You might not think it, but all of a sudden, $1.50 diesel, it's on your screen, comes off, right? Small business has $4,500 a month. Whether you believe it, I have personally seen it shoved back into their pocket in 90 days. That fuel comes down, boom, just like that. They're like, okay, now they feel better. They feel better maybe hiring more people. They feel better about expanding their business. They feel better maybe buying another piece of equipment. They feel better in, buying a piece of property and building a new business, whatever, branching out. Feel better, comfortable enough, give people a raise, whatever it may be. This changes everything enormously in that small business, right? They could use that money. They could use to pay the insurance, whatever it may be. Go against their workman's comp insurance, but it's there. Changes the light. So I told this individual, I said, on that day, these are the examples. I said, I'm giving you the examples of how in 90 days, the engine of this country could start turning immediately, which could turn on the lights for other things. Interest rates to go down, whatever. Savings accounts, you name it. Now, the flip side. This is directly coming out of the American people's pocket immediately. I mean, there's $300 a month, more than that, coming out of a family's pocket. Not to mention the cost of groceries, not to mention the increases in the other areas. Right there at the gas pump. This money, turn it around. Diesel is up to $5.50. Should be $5.60. Should be $4 a gallon. Diesel should be down to $4. Even lower as far as I'm concerned. That's $1.60 a gallon. Small business has 5 pieces of equipment. They put in 30 gallons. That's nothing. You got crane trucks where they're going and putting 75, 80, 100 gallons in those trucks, and they run all day long. These are small numbers. Look at the concrete truck going up the road, pouring the concrete. Then you say, well, the house is costing this much more. And the guy that owns the concrete plant says, well, you know what? My fuel costs are up. I have to charge more. It's very simple math. So when people are wondering, you can decide. You could say, but we're stopping Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Okay. All right. And I have to tell you, the American people in a whole, for the most part, they don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Nobody sits here and wishes they had a nuclear weapon and they destroy and wipe Israel off the face of the map or continue to fund terrorism around. Nobody wishes that on a single day. But your family comes first. Your children come first. Affording to live comes first. Feeding your family comes first. Clothing your children comes first. Putting a roof over their head comes first. America should come first. Got it? You see, that's all we're looking at. So going to war with Iran? I don't know, maybe. But the cost to our children and their future to continue to increase the debt with war payments, but then you tell them they have a Trump account and they're saving for their future when their future is actually costing them more because the federal government won't cut the spending? I don't know. That's some real juggling. So all I'm saying is I am concerned about the midterms. Now, The Republicans have the Democrat Socialists of America and the socialists that they can run against. But see, I'm telling you, these are simple mathematical facts. They change how someone feels. They change their spending patterns, everything. And that's just the bottom line. Now you throw data centers in there, and you throw some flock cameras in there, and you throw, a third party in there from, Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey and Joe Kent, and you throw a third party in there. I don't know what November brings. But I will tell you this one more time. Voters out there, forget Democrat, forget Republican, just forget all of that. Voters out there, families, mom and dad, all right? They are going to feed their children first, clothe their children first, keep a roof over the head of their children first, provide for their family first, so they know and they're connected to the real cost of all of those. And that's why they don't understand why America first, when you say that, it's supposed to be them. And I just have to tell you, I don't know that they feel it. Let me give you a couple things. I feel your pain. Remember, I think that is some of the things. Young people, 18 to 40, we have an unbalanced system. They talk about wanting to get rid of capitalism, getting rid of crony capitalism, getting rid of greed capitalism. That's what they talk about, because they're living in an unbalanced system, all right? People are tired of the government telling them how they feel about the economy. Remember, socialism is a transition. Socialism is a transition to communism, but socialism right now is being presented to young voters as maybe an answer. I'm going to cover this in the near future. Why I think tariffs, I applaud President Trump for attempting tariffs. I do applaud him. But there's a reason why tariffs don't work now. I applaud President Trump for attempting to put tariffs on to balance trade, to bring balance back to our country. But why I think they may not work now, I'm going to talk about that later. Young people, 18 to 40, I'm not attacking you. I'm not going after you. Actually, I understand you're upset. But you know what? You don't know what a functioning economy, a real, true functioning economy looks like. You don't. I'm serious. We have not had a true functioning economy that you would actually see and understand. Don't take that wrong. You haven't lived in one. Young people today, and I'm saying, I go up to 40, but go to the 18-year-olds, the 28 and the 30, all right? You don't know what a capitalist, true free market, capitalist economy that functions properly looks like. You don't. And we really don't have politicians coming up and saying, hey, I'm ready to implement one. You have the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, saying, look, we're going to go straight to collapsing and overthrowing our system of government. And then you have people that say, well, I'm a Republican, but I'm going to implement these things through the government that will benefit you. Wait a minute. If I look at all sides, I'm not really seeing anyone campaigning on restoring America for our young people. We should be doing that, restoring America to a true free market system economy, capitalist economy, a true free market capitalist system economy that they could participate in and enjoy and say, I do like this. But they don't have a true good example. And that, there you go. We should live in a world that should be politically unprofitable, but we don't. Politics is profitable. That's one of the greatest dangers we have to our republic that we should be trying to restore. So, hey, you know what? Let me give you one more thing on affordability before I get out. I think in Georgia, I'm trying to figure this out, why we didn't remember the old tax-free holiday for back-to-school shopping, right? Remember that? In Georgia, we used to have a tax-free holiday for back-to-school shopping. And I know the argument that's going to be made here in a minute. I'm going to put it up. So I'm thinking, I understand Governor Brian Kemp and Republicans. Governor Brian Kemp exempted the fuel tax. I understand. Exempted the fuel tax several times in Georgia. And I get it. And yes, that's putting money right back into the pocket. I agree with that. Right? But remember, when you exempt the fuel tax, the state fuel tax, the gas stations do not have to give it all back to you. We don't have an exact law that says every penny has to go back to the customer. But that was good. We like that. But remember, if I was Republicans, if I am a Republican, how does this sound? If I was a Georgia Republican lawmaker, how's that? Is that better? If I was a Georgia Republican lawmaker, I would have presented, or if I was out there campaigning right now, I'd be presenting things that actually sounds like I'm trying to do something. Now, here are the states, right? States with a 2026 back-to-school tax-free weekends. Alabama, Arkansas, Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, New Mexico, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia. Now, so I went to double check. Here's Tennessee Department of Revenue. Sales tax holiday, clothing, school supply, and computers. Tennessee traditional sales tax holiday on clothing, school supplies, and computers, right? During this time, clothing, school supplies, and computers may be purchased tax-free. Well, I'm going to get pushback when this article comes out. I will get pushback. Well, Tennessee doesn't have an income tax, so their sales tax is much higher throughout The rest of the year, and there's a difference. Yes, there is. But you look at all these other states that offer a back to school sales tax holiday. And we used to have that in Georgia. Georgia's back to school sales tax holiday was a popular summer tradition for many years, but the state ultimately discontinued the program after examining its economic impact. There is the timeline. Here is the timeline when Georgia held a tax-free weekend. Ready? 2002 to 2009. 2010, it was rolled back because of the Great Recession. It was reinstated in 2012. We brought it back. A lot of people were upset that they didn't have it, but we had a budget deficit at that time we had to fill in the 2010 Great Recession in Georgia. But we reinstated it in 2012 to 16. When and why it ended. In 2017, Georgia back-to-school tax-free weekend officially took place for the last time in 2016. In 2017, state lawmakers made no attempt to renew the legislation, permanently discontinuing the holiday. Right? Permanently discontinuing the holiday. Now, the only reason I bring this up today is I'm listening to affordability and I'm listening to family struggle. And right now could have been the perfect time, back to school in August. You know, you got Trump accounts. Maybe you could have reminded the parents that they could buy the underwear and the, in the pencils and the paper and the glue and erasers or whatever kids are using today, right? Computers, laptops. Whatever. You know, I used to go to the back to school shopping back in the Stone Ages, jokingly, right? That was a joke. We had children in school. My daughter went off to college. My son went off to college. Went and bought them both laptops for college during the holiday. Daughter went back to school in high school, whatever. I mean, we used to go shopping that weekend, and I mean, the underwear and the socks and the pants, buggies full, parents full. I remember it like it was yesterday, buying back to school supplies. Now, someone may say, well, yeah, but we couldn't figure every pair of pants. You might have went and got a pair yourself. Oh my God. So if you got pants, socks, underwear, actual items that a person needed on the day-to-day, and there was no taxes over 48 hours, my God, that's the end of the world. Well, several key factors that stopped that. Significant revenue loss. A study by the Georgia State University indicated that a brief tax-free period was costing the state between $36 million and $50 million in lost tax revenue each year. Now, the only reason I bring this up, period, today is I hear on the campaign trail property tax. I hear you want to alleviate these taxes. And may I remind you that any time in the past Georgia has alleviated a tax, it did not last long. I mean, just saying. No real economic growth. Data showed that the holiday did not actually increase overall consumer spending or create new jobs. Instead, it merely shifted the time of purchases. Families were simply waiting for the weekend to buy items they were going to purchase anyway. All right, what do you mean? I know you got a hole in your underwear. Just wait 3 more weeks. All right. I know you got holes in your socks, Junior. Just wait 3 more weeks. Questionable consumer savings. Research by policy organizers found that shoppers didn't always save as much as they expected. Retailers would occasionally raise base prices to scale back their standard sales promotions during tax-free weekends. Now, I will say there is some truth to that the tax-free weekends, stores would say, don't run a sale. I mean, they're coming to the store. Don't put underwear up 25% off. Not right now. They're coming anyway. They think they're getting a deal. Or raise prices. This is true. This did happen. Okay. Since 2017, Georgia has not offered a back-to-school sales tax holiday. Residents looking for tax-free shopping today often travel to neighboring states like Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, which still host their own tax-free weekends in late July and August. So if you live over there on 75, you have a straight shot to Chattanooga on those weekends, you might be headed up to Tennessee. So I get it that it wasn't the perfect solution, but I was just thinking, you know what? If something would indicate to a voter that you understand, you get what they're going through, you know, and there is a struggle out there from day to day, and it's not all property tax, not all. And that's not the total answer. So you didn't buy it, and that's my final question. You didn't buy it when Biden said it, right? You didn't buy it when Joe Biden said the economy was getting better, right? He couldn't sell you that. So the stock market is up. Just saying. Are Republicans in the kind of shape that they think they can keep moving forward if President Trump could keep saying the economy is booming? Hey, some are doing well. Some are doing well. So does that some are doing well, but not everybody. All right, folks, I'm going to just again, I thank you so much for going to our Substack, Vora, VORA, BKP Politics. I want to thank you so much for being a paid subscriber. Those that have come on and, paid subscriber, I appreciate you very much. I thank everyone that reads our articles, share them. And as I always say, I have to tell you what I really enjoy when I say the most is when you send me messages and you send me comments. I read them all and I appreciate them. I never look forward to the uglies. We don't have to be nasty to each other. All right, folks. I'm going to take a brief break. I'm going to come back and I'm going to cover the why Rick Jackson and Mike Collins bumped into each other this past weekend.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager, and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I had an absolutely great weekend. I mean, I can't complain at all. I just great weekend. So let me show you. Oh, by the way, I always want to welcome new viewers to the podcast. I really do. Every day, you guys out there, thank you. I say to people all the time, I say, just every once in a while, say thank you. Just say thank you, right? Say, I appreciate you. Now, when I moved to North Carolina, let me throw this. When I lived in North Carolina, and I love my Tar Heels up there in the great state of North Carolina, there was no A on appreciate. And I get it, right? In North Carolina, I'm not critiquing. I love my friends. But in North Carolina, they appreciate you. Appreciate you. There was no A. Got it. And I picked that up. I went with it, right? So I got into that. Appreciate you. So anyhow, just say thank you and appreciate you every once in a while. It doesn't hurt. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for sharing the podcast. Thank you for the messages you send. Thank you for subscribing and being a paid subscriber, and appreciate you. So what did you do this weekend? I canned 10 quarts of tomatoes. Yes. Oh, it's just too good to be true. I can't take my eyes off of you. Yes. Oh, nothing like a good-looking can of tomatoes. Sorry. I'm in a good mood. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing that, So I went to the Blairsville Farmers Market, just really quick. I promise I'll get this out of the way. I love fresh produce. I love Georgia grown, right? We love to say Georgia grown here. And in North Georgia, we talk about the farmers of South Georgia, and we do, and we love our blueberries, so on and so forth. Peaches, don't want to leave anything out. Love our South Georgia farmers, but let's not forget the amazing farmers in North Georgia. I tell you what, in Union County, Blairsville, Georgia, the most beautiful farmers market, and you want corn? I mean, by a truckload. And the most beautiful corn. I mean, they come in with truckloads of corn on Saturday. In fact, I have corn in the freezer. But that being said, I go up there Saturday. I get right out the farmer. I know the farmer right out of Blairsville, Georgia. I get a full box of Roma tomatoes. I mean, can anything be any prettier? It's not pretty. Come on. Nothing like a pretty tomato. I'm not making fun. I'm enjoying myself. So I get a full box of Roma tomatoes. And I go over to the guy right there who grows fresh herbs. Not herb. fresh herbs, and he's got basil. I'm going to get into the story. And then he also has fresh garlic. Anyhow, so that's what I did. I canned 10 quarts of tomatoes. Ooh, you just can't make that up. I don't even want to do the story now. I just want to talk about produce. So thank you very much. Now, this story made national news, right? This made national news. We've talked about Jon Ossoff. We've talked about running for Senate. He is the incumbent here, the Democrat. They have him on cloud nine. I mean, he could do no wrong. I actually think the media should push back and start asking him, along with Keisha Lance Bottoms, but start with him on why he won't push back or condemn, right? Why he will not condemn the DSA. He will not condemn the podcaster, I forget his name, that said America deserved 9/11. Maybe we could look when we do some fact checking, when we do the article, to see the podcaster's name that said we deserve 9/11. The fact that the guy that is the Senate, U.S. Senate candidate for Democrats up against Mike Rogers in Michigan, right? Abdul El-Sayed, he attended 6 events with the Democrat Socialists of America, even did a fundraiser for Democrat Socialists of America. And the guy that said we deserve 9/11 has campaigned with Abdul El-Sayed. The list goes on and on. Then we have the whack job. I've not used that very often lately, but you've lost your mind in Wisconsin. The Democrat that's running in the primary up there, I don't remember her name, that says we should cancel Thanksgiving. But in Georgia, our media or national media will not push back against this guy or ask him any of those questions because they have him on a pedestal and they have him built up because they think he may be president one day. And they're sending him back to Washington for another 6 years if he serves it as U.S. Senator here, Democrat. I'm telling you. So I'm not calling the race today. I'm not saying he's won, but if you listen to the national news and you look at polling, it's almost like, I mean, why even go? Oh, wow. They're doing 2 things. They're trying to do the split ticket. And the reason they're trying to do the split ticket, and I will tell you this, if you're out there and you're thinking about the U.S. Senate race in Georgia and you're thinking split ticket, they're doing that on purpose. And I will show you in just a minute because they keep talking about the split ticket. And they use a guy like Shelley Winters from WSB, who has a radio program that says he's endorsed and he'll work every day to try to get Rick Jackson elected. But at the same time, he's endorsed and will work every day to try to get, Jon Ossoff elected. Split ticket. I'm going to explain that to you. It doesn't, for some Republicans, don't take this wrong, it might sound good because you might be saying, oh, well, that's good because if we can convince Democrats to vote for Rick Jackson, if Ossoff wins, at least Rick Jackson will win. You're being set up. Now, so they will not push back against this guy, ask any questions of this guy. They continue to push Mike Collins. Mike Collins will not. It's going to take a miracle. Wow, that reminded me of a song, right? It's going to take a miracle, right? It's going to take a miracle for Mike Collins to break through and get his message in front of voters the way he really needs to. It's a fact. They're going to block him every time he comes out. The only thing they keep saying is, Mike Collins should answer about his son-in-law's white nationalist, anti-Semitic, calling him a bigot, calling him a racist. They can just call him things. The media runs with it, but nothing against Jon Ossoff. So this made national news why 2 GOP mayors are crossing party lines for Jon Ossoff. Their endorsement give the Democrat incumbent fresh support in a region where his party has struggled. Now, I'm going to share something with you. I knew this was coming. You knew this was coming. I'm playing both sides, right? You knew this was coming. Yes. Well, if you knew this was coming, why didn't you tell us? Well, I did. I knew this was coming. I knew someone would go public, right? And I will explain. Like I said, I knew someone would go public. I knew this was going public sooner or later. And it was going to happen. And it did. It made news everywhere. Here is the AJC. And there is Morning Joe. I know you don't like Morning Joe. I know you don't. I'm not telling you I like Morning Joe, but I watch it every day. I have to pick up the narrative they're running. If I don't do this, no one's going to tell you it's happening out there. I just got to tell you, they're not. So here it is. AJC live, 7 a.m. Eastern. This was last week. Why 2 GOP mayors are crossing party lines for Jon Ossoff, right? And here's another little quick screenshot. Two deep red Georgia mayors endorse Jon Ossoff. And I know if you're out there and you're supporting Mike Collins, and you supported Mike Collins all along, and I get it, okay? You're like, wait a minute. When is someone going to tell the truth about this Jon Ossoff? Well, you have layers to get through. And you have to also find someone who cares. I'm serious. You have to find a media outlet who cares other than fixed news. I mean, Fox News. You're going to have to find a media outlet that cares other than Fox News. And really, they're not promoting Mike Collins, but you're going to have to find someone other than OAN, right? America's First, right? America's First Network or whatever they call themselves. Over there with the Steve Bannon crowd. OAN, Newsmax, Breitbart, right? Gateway Pundit, list goes on. Outside of that, you're not going to get through the layers. So let me show you this, and we're not bragging about polls that we trust them and agree with them. But here is an Interactive Polls. This is a website or a X account called Interactive Polls. And these are averages that are being done. And they're showing you that Georgia Ossoff is an 8.8 plus 8.8. We have looked at the AARP. Now, Mike Collins is not going to break out of anything past Fox, the 60 and older independent or white crowd, white viewer. Bottom line. All right. Now, AARP, we don't like their polling model, but they came out 9 points. Fox came out 13 points. They have Georgia blue, and they have Ossoff in an average of an 8.8 right now. Now, 8.8, I'm not predicting he will win by that, but this is where the split ticket is where they're doing this on purpose. They want you to believe the split ticket will work. And that you as Republicans can feel safe to vote for Ossoff and Rick Jackson. I'm going to expose how that is not going to work. The split ticket this time. 8.8. North Carolina, 7.2. That would be 7.2. That's Roy Cooper, the former governor of North Carolina. They're saying his polling average over Whatley, the former RNC chair, is 7.2 over advantage. Mike Rogers has a 2.2 in Michigan. That's the Republican. Tallarico is showing a 2.1 average over Paxton. And then you have Maine, you have Iowa, you have Ohio, Sherrod Brown. Now, Sherrod Brown is a former senator from Ohio seeking re-election. So he has name recognition, all right? And you have Arkansas at a 0.03. Those are statistically tied. So the only reason I'm showing you this is for a couple reasons. You really think that outside groups are going to put money into Georgia for Mike Collins? If you do, that's fine. But every time I hear money's going to come in to help Mike Collins, I'm telling you, if Texas stays in that neck and neck, the Senate does not want to leave. You have, is it Todd Blanche? That was just 2 Republicans bailed, right? Lisa Murkowski in Alaska and Susan Collins in Maine bailed on Todd Blanche's approval in the Senate, approval of the Attorney General appointment. 50-49 or something like that. And Mitch McConnell will be gone. And we can't promise 100% that the Republican will replace him in Kentucky in the election. Probably so. So with things like appointments, because you got to remember the Senate appoints judges, confirms judges. So that's the importance to maintaining Republican majority in the Senate. So if you're looking at a pickup in Michigan with Mike Rogers running against Abdul El Sayed, right? And that's a possible pickup for Republicans. Gary Peters chose not to run for re-election. And they look at a possibility of that Ken Paxton is vulnerable in Texas. I know they always call Texas fool's gold for Democrats, but still yet, they are doing with the media and money. Tallarico's raising money. And you take Maine, we'll throw Maine in there. Susan Collins is vulnerable right now in Maine. And you take Ohio, let's just say this, unless internal polling numbers shrink the Ossoff race really close here in mid-September, don't look for the money to pour into Georgia while these others are out there. Because you got to remember, Todd Blanche and his confirmation this past weekend as Attorney General, 50-49, is a direct reason why confirming judges. I mean, we don't hold the Senate as Republicans. Trump gets there'll not be another judge confirmed. Now, keep this in mind while we're talking about the Senate. Look at these numbers on the screen. They're going to go to pick up and save first. Because what if Samuel Alito, Supreme Court Justice, wants to retire? You got Trump 2 more years. What if? What if Clarence Thomas wants to retire? So I, for one, would love to pick up a Republican for Ossoff who would confirm Republican judges or conservative judges or help us get confidence in getting a Supreme Court nominee if Alito or Thomas retire. But at the same time, Don't look for the money to pour in to Georgia. Now, let me go through why they're convincing you of a split ticket and why, because both of these mayors say they're going to vote for Rick Jackson. Here is an article I wrote June 8th. June 8th. It's August 10th. I wrote this article June 8th. The runoff reality check. Why Jon Ossoff is begging to run against Mike Collins. Kemp's shadow, Ossoff's smirk. The high stakes math of the Georgia Senate runoff. Are Republicans walking into a trap? Democrats have picked the GOP nominee they want to face, and it's not who you think. Now, Democrats wanted to face Mike Collins. Wanted to. And I got pushback. Are you telling us that you're going with Derek Dooley, right? You're supporting Brian Kemp? I got pushback. I tell you what, they would not be, and I'll show you everything I will prove. I don't particularly like to say prove as, but I'm going to prove to you what it's happening. They would not be asking Derek Dooley today to push back and answer for white nationalists. They wouldn't be. Now, I wrote that, and here are a couple excerpts from that. The Democrats' strategy, take out Dooley to avoid Kemp. Right now, before early voting wraps up, Democrats have launched a massive coordinated social media attack. They were attacking Derek Dooley, his brother Daniel Dooley, and Governor Brian Kemp. I get it. Why? Because Democrats are signaling that they want to take Derek Dooley out of the picture. They do not want to run against Brian Kemp's political machine. Now remember, Brian Kemp's political machine has shifted over to Rick Jackson. But Brian Kemp had his political machine. This is not about whether you like Brian Kemp or not. Get over it. But his political machine, his money, his donors, his effort, his time, and Marty and the girls, they wanted to take it out. They don't want to admit it, but Kemp's polling numbers are very high. If Kemp goes out there and tells the critical block of independent voters that Derek Dooley is okay, Ossoff's margin dramatically shrinks. Maybe he wins by 1%. Now, I wrote this back in June 8th, and I told you I did not think Ossoff would lose. But there is the Mike Collins loses by this much, or Derek Dooley loses by 1%. There would not be two things. There would not be the split ticket voting that they're talking about. And if Derek Dooley, maybe he only wins, right? Ossoff's margin shrinks. Maybe he only wins by 1%, or maybe he loses. Either way, the tight margin helps Republicans retain down ballot races. You see, a 6 point, a 5, a 6 point, when you start getting in that area, you're going to have a handful of Republicans that vote for Ossoff, that vote for Rick Jackson, but not all. This is being done on purpose to boost the Ossoff numbers enough, even with split ticket, to pull Democrats down ballot up. It's an illusion that they're trying to sell you. Now, so the Democrats' game plan is simple. Get Mike Collins as the nominee. That way they don't have to run against Kemp's operation. If Collins is at the top of the ticket, Ossoff can pull the Democrats across the finish line. Ossoff and Senator Raphael Warnock have already endorsed Democrat Josh McLaren for lieutenant governor, and they're holding rallies right down the line with Keisha Lance Bottoms. June 8th, I brought you this. This was right there. When you say, what happened in Valdosta? What happened in the city of Tifton, right? In Tift County and Loudoun County. What happened? I wish somebody would have told us this. So, go a little further. I'm going to explain some more. If Mike Collins becomes the nominee, Republicans are just going to have to figure out how to fund that campaign, knowing Brian Kemp will likely take the donor network and go home. If Derek Dooley becomes the nominee, we have to weather the storm of these financial scandals that Ossoff is waiting to weaponize. So you decide. But stop going after each other online. This was June 8th. If someone sees Dooley as the best path to coming close to Ossoff or saving the governor's race, respect it. If someone is voting for Collins because they want a true grassroots candidate, respect it. All right? John Ossoff's not going to be an early beat. He is not the man-child of 2020. You have the facts. Now get out there and vote. So I wrote that. I got pushback. I got hate mail. Yes, hate mail. I got angry mail. They never thought they'd see the day I supported Brian Kemp. No, I have always been clear. I have never moved left, right, center, off the target that my number one focus is the governor's office of Georgia. Never have changed that from day one. Now, I wrote this back on May 17th. Now, that one was June 8th. That was the runoff article, right? That's when we were in the runoff. Mike Collins is in a runoff with Derek Dooley. What I just showed you, I wrote in that article. Now, I wrote this one May 17th. The primary was May 19th, right? So I probably should have put this one up first, but this one I wrote May 17th, primaries May 19th. The one we just went through, the Substack I wrote, was June 8th in the runoff, Republican runoff. The brutal truth about Georgia GOP ticket and who could destroy it. The candidates, Democrats, are praying Republicans nominate on Tuesday. I'm going to step out and just say it. Brian Kemp is already running for Senate. He was running 5 days a week. He's just using a surrogate named Derek Dooley. Here is why that matters for the whole ticket. Here's why it matters. I wrote this May 17th, 2026. U.S. Senate. Let's get started at the top of the ticket, which would be for U.S. Senate, now the Democrat incumbent Jon Ossoff. And I will tell you that if my predictions come true, Ossoff right now could win by about 5 margin. I told you that the polling now is 8.8. We've had 9 point. We've had over 10. I don't know where it'll stand. But I told you on May 17th, Ossoff could win by about a 5 margin. Yes, again, let's keep in mind, I am not intending to upset anyone, just looking at who could actually win. So I wrote that. Who is Brian Kemp campaigning with and taking a picture with? Rick Jackson, Brian Kemp unite for the first time since GOP primary. Right? Here they are side by side, Brian Kemp and Rick Jackson. Now, I'm going to play something for you just briefly here. Let me play this.
Rick knows what it's like to struggle. He did it himself as a young child, but he didn't let that keep him down. He worked hard. He's smart. He's created thousands of jobs, given opportunity to thousands of Georgians, and really I think has the character to be our next governor, and also the heart. When people think about their governor, they want somebody that's accessible. They want somebody that knows that you feel their pain and you understand what they're struggling to go through every day, and we've certainly done that. And I believe that man can keep this going, and that's why I'm supporting him.
Feel the pain. Feel the pain. That's why I'm supporting him. You don't see Brian Kemp out there with Mike Collins. You will not. It will be a miracle, and I want you to tell me when it happens, and I want you to tell me if you think you will ever see it. Brian Kemp campaign with, take a picture with, and say that Mike Collins feels your pain and would be a better senator for Georgia than Jon Ossoff. I'm waiting for it. But if Derek Dooley was the nominee, now we can't go back. It's done. It's over with. And I'm not upset. I'm not upset. The voters have spoken. Mike Collins is the nominee for the Republican. But I'm explaining where we're at. And the bottom line is Brian, Marty Kemp, and the girls would be out there campaigning 7 days a week. Maybe taking Sunday off for Derek Dooley. Money would be coming in. That race would be considered a toss-up. The AJC would not be going after Derek Dooley. They would be following Brian Kemp around. But they're not. Now, let's get back to what I wrote. Because I'm going to get very clear to you why the two mayors endorsed Jon Ossoff. Now, so if I look at Ossoff possibly having a 5-point edge in the election, what does that mean down ballot? Are you thinking that many people would vote for Jon Ossoff and switch back over to vote for Republicans? Enough to get the win? I don't think so. I didn't think so May 17th when I wrote this article. I don't think so today. The reason they are highlighting the split ticket is to try to bolster Ossoff. Republicans voting for Ossoff, getting it up here, maybe not voting for Rick Jackson. And basically more, the Republican poll is for the independents. So let me continue. So here you go, my final analysis. Mike Collins, if he is the nominee, or Buddy Carter for that matter, cannot win in November. They cannot convince people that Jon Ossoff should not get reelected. With that said, if they are at the top of the ticket and Ossoff pulls off a 5%, maybe worst case scenario 6%, right? 5%, maybe worst case scenario 6%, then down the ballot, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, all the way down, stands a much bigger chance of going in the Democrat column. It's just something you've got to think about, whether you like it or not. If you see if Derek Dooley is the nominee, Brian Kemp will be out there campaigning 7 days a week. That'll be good for the ticket. Actually, in a roundabout way, Brian Kemp will be at the top of the ticket, basically in a new ad showing support for Derek Dooley. You would never know Derek Dooley was the candidate. It's almost like Brian Kemp is asking you to elect him one more time. Now, those are the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. That's it. Like Brian Kemp, dislike Brian Kemp, hate Brian Kemp, whatever. There's all kinds of groups out there. I'm bringing it to you. It's the bottom line, and you are seeing it. Mike Collins cannot break through the layer outside of OAN, outside of Steve Bannon, outside of Newsmax, outside of far-right conservative networks or podcasts or commentators. He cannot break out of it. And they're not going to let him get past that veil. And Brian Kemp is not campaigning for him, but he's already campaigning for Rick Jackson. Now, let's go a little further. Rick Jackson's out-of-state begging tour, a desperate play to ignore his... Whoa. Sorry. This was an article I wrote about Rick Jackson. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to read it. Here's what I wanted you to know. Apologize. Back up. Let's get this straight. Now, here is, all right. I wrote this June 12th. You ready? I wrote this June 12th, 2026. Wake up, Georgia Republicans. Wake up, Georgia Republicans, June 12th, 2026. Why Jon Ossoff is woven into our deepest red counties. Sorry, I'm going to take a bow. I told you. I told you all along. I study this. I'm not being arrogant. I'm not being a jackass. I'm not being an asshole. I swear I'm not. I just study every word. I read everything I get my hands on. I watch the left, where they're moving. And I wrote this. What did the AJC say? What did they say? How Ossoff has in the reddest counties. Quote, I said it. I said it June 12th. Wake up, Georgia Republicans. Why Jon Ossoff is woven into our deepest red counties. June 12th, 2026, before the runoff, because I was letting you know, if you put Mike Collins on the ballot. Now, I wrote this before the June 18th runoff election for U.S. Senate in Georgia. The U.S. Senate race, why Jon Ossoff is so hard to beat. Let's move to U.S. Senate race. Let me look you right in the eye. I want a Republican from Georgia to go to Washington, D.C. I said it then, I'll say it now. I want to reverse, my apologies. I want to reverse the nightmare of having two Democrat U.S. senators. But Jon Ossoff is not going to be easy to beat. Wrote this back in June. Why? Because of constituent services. I told you back in June 12th. What is the date on that? June 12th. I told you I was getting calls all around the state. What Jon Ossoff had done for his office answered the phone. Jon Ossoff returned the calls of mayors, commissioners. Why? Because of constituent services. When the Valdosta mayor came out and the Tifton mayor came out, I knew it was coming. I knew someone would come forward. Because of constituent services, they have Ossoff pumped up like he might run for president one day. I told you this back in June. And he has woven himself into the fabric of the state over the past 6 years, even in deep red counties. If he were just a partisan hack, he'd only focus on DeKalb, Gwinnett, Fulton, Cobb, Savannah, Macon, Albany. But go ask your local county commissioners and mayors in the most conservative areas of Georgia. They will whisper to you. See, I knew this was coming. They would whisper to you. John Ossoff's got us money. When we called his office, they asked, what do we need? His staff, he has staff at our meetings. When we call John Ossoff's office, they answer the phone. They ask what we need, right? They have staff come to our meetings. Here is what I put in the article. Let me give you hard proof, right? Hard proof. White County, Cleveland, Georgia, right? Trump won. If you think Loudoun County, if you think Tift County, if you think Valdosta, if you think those are hard red, Tift County, White County, Cleveland, Georgia, Trump won 83% of the vote here. Yet, Republican Mayor Josh Turner, a 2008 RNC delegate, publicly praised Ossoff for securing a $17.9 million grant to upgrade their waste management treatment facility. Turner said Ossoff and his staff were, quote, champions for Cleveland, noting Ossoff personally called him with the news. This is a county in North Georgia. White County voted 83% for Donald Trump. John Ossoff got $17.9 million grant. Senator Ossoff helped secure a $17.9 million grant. The money is going to upgrade the wastewater treatment facility to support economic growth and job creation. The mayor said Ossoff and his staff were champions. The mayor of Cleveland is Josh Turner. He's a Republican. He used to chair the White County Republican Party and was even a delegate to the 2008 Republican National Convention. I bet you're wishing someone would have told you this. I know you're. I found others, right? In White County, Donald Trump got 83% of the vote. Lumpkin County, Dahlonega, Trump won 80.5% here. Ossoff and Warnock secured $700,000 for clinical training at UNG Dahlonega, plus over $8 million for broadband funding. Fannin County. I live in Fannin County. The county I live in, Fannin County, my home county. I put it in the article. In 2023, Ossoff helped secure a $1.2 million USDA grant for our fire department, bringing in 76 new breathing apparatus units and a pumper truck, plus another $75,000 in FEMA fire safety funding. I wonder if all of those firemen over there, or fire people, don't know who they are, were told these 76 new breathing apparatus units came from Senator John Ossoff. I wonder if they were told that. Because if you've ever been to one of those meetings, and I have been, they do announce where they got their money from and where they got a grant and when they're looking for these breathing apparatus. That's a big deal in fire departments. Do you think the firefighters and the local officials in these deep red counties don't know who funded the gear? Why I even wrote that? They know. It's in their local paper. Ossoff's constituent services are massive, or a massive hurdle for any Republican challenger, right? Constituent services is a massive hurdle for any Republican challenger. Now, everything I just brought you, I wrote. I wrote before the May, I told you 6 points, maybe 5 points, down ballot. I wrote this on May 17th before the May 19th primary. I wrote the other article in June. I let you know he was going to be tough to beat on constituent services. Now let's get into what happened last week. 2 Republican mayors, this is an AJC article, 2 Republican mayors from the deepest, reddest parts. Let me correct that because I am quoting it from the AJC. Greg Bluestein, August 6, 2026. August 6th. May and June year. August 6, 2026, Greg Bluestein wrote in the AJC, 2 Republican mayors from the reddest part of Georgia are breaking ranks to back Democrat U.S. Senator Jon Ossoff's reelection bid, telling the AJC that the Democrats' work for their communities outweighs partisan differences. Valdosta Mayor Scott James Matheson, try that again. Valdosta Mayor Scott James Matheson and Tifton Mayor Julie Smith aren't household names, but are willing to cross party lines, signals a weakness for Republican U.S. Senate candidate Mike Collins, who has struggled to unite his party and broaden his appeal following a bruising primary fight. No, he can't broaden his appeal because the media will not let him get past the layers that they have between him getting his message out and Jon Ossoff. Matheson and Smith praised Ossoff's approach to constituent service and his efforts to steer federal resources to South Georgia. I don't have to track him down. He tracks me down, said Smith, a former president of the Georgia Municipal Association. So, Mayor Smith of Tifton, GMA, Georgia Municipal Association, which every city in, right? Every city in Georgia is a member of the GMA. What did I tell you, right? Nonpartisan elections. He's been very good to South Georgia, and in my nonpartisan role as a mayor, I have to look to someone who takes care of their constituents. I'm a Republican, but there are times when a person exceeds the party and they go above and beyond, right? Nonpartisan mayor of Tifton. Now, Matheson, who considers himself a hardcore conservative, said his friendship with Ossoff is one of the biggest surprises of his life. He stated years ago during what he describes as a standoffish meeting with the Democrat that may have stemmed from Matheson's background as not only a GOP official, but also a conservative radio host critical of Ossoff. But their relationship quickly yielded tangible results. Ossoff helped secure $2 million for Valdosta's transit system, and Matheson said Ossoff was the first politician to visit in person after devastating hurricane-hit region. I will take heat. Here's Matheson's quote. The mayor of Valdosta. I will take heat for this endorsement, and it doesn't matter, Matheson said. There's no way I could turn my back on this relationship. He added, the voters put me here to do a job, and that man has been absolutely incredible. So here they are, praising Jon Ossoff. Both Matheson and Smith are backing Republican Rick Jackson's Georgia's race for governor, an example of a split ticket voting that helped propel Ossoff and U.S. Senate Raphael Warnock to win earlier this decade. Now, I'm telling you, they're moving the split ticket to Ossoff on purpose to get that 6 to 7 or 8 point, but we'll go 5 to 6 point win for Ossoff to pull the Democrat ticket up. There will not be a split ticket strong enough. So they're trying to convince Republicans it's okay. Go vote for Jon Ossoff. Go vote for Jon Ossoff. Okay? It's okay. And then you can go vote for Rick Jackson. Not everybody will do that. That's why Democrats are really loving this. It's to pull the bottom up. Now, let me just say this to the two mayors that did this. Let me say this to you. I think I'll close this segment with that. It's Matheson, right? And Smith. Matheson, let me write that down because I want to directly both Matheson and Smith are backing Republican Rick Jackson. Example of a split ticket voting that helped propel Ossoff and U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock to wins earlier this decade. Keep in mind, those were wins that they got, and the split ticket, if you want to call it, put Brian Kemp in office. Rick Jackson is not Brian Kemp. I hope the money he spends is enough to pull him across the line, but I will say this. Keisha Lance Bottoms is not Stacey Abrams, and Rick Jackson is not Brian Kemp. You wait and see. We'll remember this one later down the road. The support is notable because it comes from one of the most conservative corners of Georgia. Trump carried Tifton's Tift County by 36% and Valdosta's Loudoun County by 18 points in 2024. The president topped more than 70% vote in many surrounding counties. Now, this is true, but I'm going to give you a couple more points. Like Matheson Smith, this is the mayor of Tifton. This is the mayor of Tifton. Also, former president of the GMA, the Georgia Municipal Association, which means this is a pull on them like it's okay. Yes, if you were once the president of the GMA, which the majority of the GMA is Democrats. Now, Smith claims she's not a Democrat. But Tifton is also a nonpartisan race, right? Bottom line. And the GMA is the majority of the GMA are Democrats. I know what they may tell you, but they're not. They're Democrats. So what she's doing is endorsing and signaling to other mayors. Like Matheson, Smith stressed she has no issues with Collins and said she would work with him if he wins. But she pointed to Ossoff's work securing funding for projects at the University of Georgia's Tifton campus, the Agricultural College, and the Tiff Regional Medical Center. There's always going to be disagreement when you're talking partisan politics, but I look at the record and his record to improve the business and communities in my region speaks to me louder than whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat, she said. The proof is in the pudding. I would like to see both of these mayors interviewed on Jon Ossoff's record in other ways. Now, let me just show you something here. And this is a fact. I'm being told, I did not look it up. So I do not, this is not something I have fact checked or done the research. I'm telling you that Matheson and Smith, both of these mayors, I'm being told vote Republican in their Republican voting record. I'm being told that. Okay. Being told, don't know. But I just want to explain something to you. These are both mayors of cities within counties that do vote red. These are both mayors of cities that are in the middle of counties that went enormously for Donald Trump. But let's look at the city of Valdosta. Keep in mind, in the city limits of Valdosta, the New Jerusalem precinct voted 62% for Kamala Harris. Loudoun's Civic, right? This is Valdosta, voted 66.43 for Kamala Harris. And then you get down to the JC Community Center, 45% for Harris, and Trinity Church, 47.68 for Harris, and Pine Grove Church. Now, there is an enormous amount of Democrats, okay? An enormous amount of Democrats just putting it out there for facts in this nonpartisan Valdosta, city of Valdosta, that Matheson, the mayor, has to keep happy. Has to. Bottom line. Now, I don't know 100% why they came out as Republicans and endorsed a Democrat, but they are nonpartisan mayors in cities that have enormous Democrat vote for that they have to keep in the back of their mind when they make decisions. Now, let's go to Tifton. Keep in mind, Tifton, the city of Tifton, the precinct of Tifton South went right close to 65% for Kamala Harris. Remember that. And Mott Littman Jim, all right, went 79% for Kamala Harris. Keep that in mind. Although I hear these mayors vote Republican, they're in cities where they run nonpartisan. They both endorse the Democrat. Now, yes, Mont Littman Jim is located within the city limits of Tifton. Just wanted to double check that that was in the city limits of Tifton. So, let me just say this. Campaign distance. Let me just say this, all right? And I want to close this segment. And I want to say this to the mayor of Valdosta, Mayor Matheson, and the mayor of Tifton, Mayor Smith. Be very clear. I want this to be a direct, all right? This is a direct statement. First, to the mayor of Valdosta, Matheson, and to the mayor of Tifton, Smith, you know when you came out and endorsed a Democrat. Let's forget it's John Ossoff. Endorsed a Democrat claiming to be a Republican. You are influencing someone else's vote. You know that. Someone else's, not just yours. You know that. To come out publicly as Republicans and say, I endorse a Democrat. is clear that you're encouraging other Republicans to vote for a Democrat. And you can say, I'm encouraging people to vote for Jon Ossoff. No, you're encouraging, the facts are, Republicans or anyone else there to get out and vote for Jon Ossoff. That's what you're doing. And you have influence. So let me say to the both of you, if you choose to go in the ballot box and push the button for Jon Ossoff, that's your right. You have the right to privacy when you vote. No one should ever know how you vote. And if you want to vote for Jon Ossoff, so be it. But never, a long time, that's never, does a Republican come out and encourage anyone to vote for a Democrat or endorse a Democrat. That you do not do. So if the two of you wanted to go and vote for Jon Ossoff, fine. You didn't have to come out and endorse. So when someone says, are you a Republican? I look at you and say, no, you are not. Because a Republican does not come out and endorse a Democrat. They don't do that. Vote for one? Sure, go ahead. Why not? Sure, vote. Do what you want. But publicly come out and endorse any good Republican. There's no way a good Republican, a real Republican, would come out and tell another person to go vote for Jon Ossoff, a Democrat. Maybe you should come out and do a press conference how you're upset Jon Ossoff, when you thought he was a real good guy, hasn't come out and condemned DSA, condemned Roa Roman in the Georgia State Senate race 7. Okay. Come out and condemn Mondani in New York. Come out and condemned Abdul El-Sayed running for Senate. Because, see, Jon Ossoff come out and said he supports Abdul El-Sayed running for Senate, U.S. Senate in Michigan. Maybe that's what you should do. But, hey, he got you money, right? Isn't that what makes it all turn? Who can get you some money? Campaign distance. That will be our next subject between Rick. They're trying to put campaign distance between Mike Collins and Rick Jackson. Who are they ever? Trying to put some campaign distance. Now, look, I always appreciate you out there. I really do. I appreciate you sharing our Substack. I didn't mean to come out here. I didn't want to come out here today and do an I told you so subject, an I told you so story. I didn't want to do that. I didn't mean to spend an hour saying, look, I wrote this here. It's too late now. I'm not really coming out and attacking and going after Mike Collins. But I think I should always come out and tell you the truth and be clear on where we're at. And I knew this constituent service thing was going to come up. Republicans, everything I'm doing is just trying to nudge you, like I'm shaking you. Wake up, wake up, wake up. DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, are right around the corner. All right, folks, I'm going to take a brief break, right? Yes. I'm going to take a brief break, and when I come back, I want to talk to you about why Mike Collins and Rick Jackson finally took a picture together in Rome, Georgia this past Saturday, and who Rick Jackson was at an event with and did not take a picture, in our next episode of BKP Politics.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. How are you today? I'm doing great. I had a great weekend. So if you've watched our other podcast or read the other articles we've started putting out this Monday, August 10th, 2026, I always start out, I try to always prompt myself to say, always start out saying thank you. I want to try to make sure I never forget that because I like saying thank you. First of all, I always like to welcome new viewers, and I know we have new viewers because you're finding us on the internet. We do put our podcast up on YouTube, Voice of Rural America YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook page, Voice of Rural America. You're finding us there. You're finding our Substack. Our Substack is on VORA, BKP Politics. Many of you are now paid subscribers. There's an option at the bottom of the article to become a paid subscriber. I think it's $8 a month. We appreciate you so much for that. So I know new viewers, you're on board, you're finding us, or our friends are sharing. Thank you very much. We're also on TikTok. Yes, BKP. I think BKP Politics TikTok. Yeah, sure. Why not? Right. So that being said, welcome back. Now we put out an affordability on the economy podcast. We put out one on the two mayors in some of the reddest districts of Georgia coming out endorsing Jon Ossoff over Mike Collins, the Republican mayors of Valdosta. Now, today I want to talk about something. I wrote an article last week, and many of you out there, and I've got to say thank you, many of you out there wrote me, and you really liked our MTG article and podcast. First of all, what did you do this weekend? I always like to brag on Georgia farmers. I really do. I love Georgia farmers. They're amazing. If you know the people, if you ever go to events, a lot of times we talk about Georgia farmers and we go to South Georgia. And I get it. I get it loud and clear. South Georgia, there's a reason why. And you love the blueberries and you love the peaches and the watermelons and so on. We'll leave it there. We could go all day. Our great South Georgia farmers. But North Georgia, all right, amazing farmers. And I love to brag about the farmers market up in Blairsville, Georgia. We have several farmers markets in North Georgia. Someone's saying you're leaving ours out, but no, I'm not really. We have multiple farmers markets in North Georgia. I go up here to Blairsville. It's not far from me, Union County. Truckloads of corn. I mean, the most beautiful corn. Truckloads of tomatoes grown right here, fresh. So I canned 10 quarts of tomatoes this weekend. fresh right from the farm, North Georgia. Fresh basil. A guy up there, he's a great guy. He fresh basil and garlic, grows all of that right up here in North Georgia. Anyhow, so I better move along or I'd spend the whole podcast bragging. Oh, I put corn in the freezer, ready to go. Yes. Nothing like some roasting ears, right? Roasting ears. Anyhow, so that's what I did this weekend. Moving right along. Now, we have talked about the let me leave that up. I want to find my picture. Mike Collins and Rick Jackson. Now, Mike Collins is running for U.S. Senate, the Republican nominee, and he is right now distance. And we don't know the accuracy of the polling, but according to polling, he's a distance between the incumbent and himself, Jon Ossoff. He is a distant second in the U.S. Senate race here in Georgia, and we've talked about it. And, you know, last week, the AJC brought up, and this right here, the campaign distance. And what we've noticed is that Mike Collins and Rick Jackson have not campaigned together. Now, there's a difference in being at the same event. I'm going to lay all this out. There's a difference of being at the same event and campaigning together, right? Now, there's so many events out there that are going on that Rick Jackson's team needs to set up and be at. They do. And we get it. And a lot of the other candidates, whether it's Mike Collins, Greg Dolezal, running for Lieutenant Governor, Republican, Tim Fleming, Secretary of State, Brian Strickland, Attorney General, so on. All right. There's a lot of those candidates show up at these events. People that are running on the ticket as state senator, state representative, maybe even a local commissioner. But these events are happening day in and day out and packed throughout the weekend. So there's a difference again in going to an event and campaigning together. Now, this past weekend, and I'll show you this, Mike Collins and Rick Jackson really did not campaign together, but they were together and finally took a picture. Campaign distance. Now, the AJC loved last week U.S. Rep. Mike Collins and Rick Jackson haven't campaigned together since winning the GOP nomination for U.S. Senate and governor. Georgia Democrats want to turn that distance into campaign issues. So they're trying to make an issue that the two haven't campaigned together. Now, that was last week, AJC. Then what the Georgia Republicans' Tillman rally revealed ahead of November. So this morning, they put out what Georgia Republicans' Tillman rally revealed ahead of November. Now, the Tillman rally is held every year. It's a pretty strong rally. It's a pretty big event. It is one of the rallies that a candidate for office will put on their schedule early in the year. It's held in Rome, Georgia. Rome, Georgia is in Floyd County. Floyd County is in the 14th district. That's important. So the AJC put up two individual pictures of Mike Collins and Rick Jackson. Now, the reason I bring this up, they do not actually post the picture of them together. Some might say, well, they're on the same, but it's not. I'm telling you why. I was telling somebody this the other day. Folks, your eyes take a picture. You may not go blink, blink to take that picture and see the stars flashing when you close your eyes, but your eyes are always taking a picture, always. And that picture is always being registered in your brain. And when it gets registered in your brain and goes into your brain library, you see it a certain way and it affects you emotionally, not makes you emotionally, but affects your feeling some way. Now, whether you realize that or not, that's really what happens. So that's why the AJC, they're very smart when they put pictures up. They did not put them together or show you the actual picture, but they say what the Tillman rally really revealed. Now, why did Rick Jackson go to the same rally with Mike Collins? And why did he take a picture with Mike Collins? Now, I will say this. I think every podcast, I make it very clear I'm voting for Rick Jackson, okay? Voting for Rick Jackson. But Rick Jackson's campaign, the guy spent the guy's getting in the area of $200 million now, and we're not even out of August. Yes, $200 million, and we're not even out of August. Send me 50 grand. send me 50, send me 50 grand. You know, just throw it over here. Wow, 200 million. We're getting close to $200 million on the Republican side for one candidate, Rick Jackson. All right. So Rick Jackson said, I was at the Pickens rally, and I'm going to show you this in a minute. Saturday, he was over there in Floyd County that morning, and Saturday at 2:30, he was at Pickens County, Georgia, Jasper, for a rally I attended. Now, Rick Jackson's campaign, and at that rally in Pickens, he said he had hired the dream team, the campaign dream team. He's got Brian Kemp's team. He's got other teams. I've seen several. It's almost like he went to every campaign consultant team in the state and said, you know, how much? Now, that being said, Rick Jackson is focusing, and his campaign team, everything every day. The only thing he will do is what benefits him. And I don't think he's looking at it wrong. He's trying to win an election. He does not get up and say, oh, should we go to this event and kind of prop up Greg Dolezal a little today, or go to this event and help out Tim Fleming a little today? That is not happening in his campaign. Every single decision, every single move, how does it help Rick? Do we need to be there? What is the positive? Where is the win-win for Rick Jackson for governor of Georgia campaign? That's what happens every time. This is no different. I'll explain. Now, over here, Unity, here's a few takeaways. Unity, sort of. That's the AJC, sort of. Unity, sort of. U.S. Senate nominee Mike Collins enters the fall campaign in the toughest position that GOP I'm going to back up and try it again. I get the rolling. U.S. Senate nominee Mike Collins enters the fall campaign in a tougher position than GOP nominee for Governor Rick Jackson. So if that's the case, why does Rick Jackson need to take a picture with him? Democratic U.S. Senate Ossoff leads Collins in every major poll, while the race between Jackson and Democrat Keisha Lance Bottoms is tighter. Until Saturday, Collins and Jackson had mostly kept their distance on the campaign trail, a contrast with Bottoms and Ossoff, who have campaigned together as something close to a Democrat ticket. See, they're telling you that Ossoff and Keisha, they're campaigning as a Democrat ticket. They still show the separation between Collins and and Rick Jackson. Democrats even challenged Jackson last week to refuse a campaign with Collins. So much for that. Collins and Jackson posed side by side for photos at the event. Don't expect them to from the same tag team partnership as Bottoms and Ossoff, but the Tillman rally made it clear they aren't steering clear of each other either. Now, let's get into the explanation. So let me show you the visual of the AJC. See, Bottoms, Ossoff campaign in Savannah take aim at Trump. So that's the visual they put up there. Here is the picture of Mike Collins, right? Now you see Ossoff and Keisha Lance Bottoms holding up the unity sign as they're together. Well, here is the picture. Why didn't the AJC run this? Here is Mike Collins, right? And Rick Jackson obviously has his arm around Mike Collins, and they're both giving the thumbs up. That is the, I think it's, I don't know, I'm not going to call it Republican, but that's like the unity for thumbs up. So here's a good picture of Rick Jackson and Mike Collins, thumbs up, both of them smiling, not afraid to be at each other, don't look uncomfortable. AJC did not publish this one. Notice that? Now, why did Rick Jackson take that picture? Here's another picture on the internet where Rick Jackson and Mike Collins just happen to be somewhere in the room together. Okay. It's just a side picture there where they were even close in the room. Doesn't look like they're having a conversation. All right. Last week, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Georgia Democrats press Rick Jackson to denounce Mike Collins. Denounce Mike Collins. Why? Why are they pressing Rick Jackson to denounce Mike Collins? Why are they not pressing Jon Ossoff to denounce Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan and the guy that he campaigned with that said, hey, I forget his name. Maybe we look that up when we get to, I'm telling myself this as a reminder that when we get to the article we write, we fact check the guy that campaigns with El-Sayed in Michigan running for U.S. Senate that said America deserves 9/11. Why don't they ask, Jon Ossoff to condemn him, right? Why don't they ask Jon Ossoff to condemn Roa Roman, who is running for Georgia State Senate District 7, who went to Queens, New York, and knocked on doors and campaigned alongside of, she has not said she's a member of or denounced the DSA, but alongside of DSA volunteers for Mondani, right? In New York City. Why haven't they asked him to denounce and push back against Roa Roman for going and campaigning in Michigan with Abdul El-Sayed while she should have been in Georgia campaigning for Georgia State Senate District 7? But hey, why not? Let's ask to push back against Mike Collins. I'm telling you, I just want to give you an example. Now, why did Mike Collins take a picture with why did Rick Jackson, candidate for Republican governor in Georgia, take a picture with Mike Collins? I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why this happened. All right. Remember last week? See, remember where the Tillman rally is. Remember what I just told you. The Tillman rally is in Rome, the city of Rome, Floyd County, 14th Congressional District of Georgia. Remember that. Now, in that district, there's problems. That is the plus 19 red district. So you've got two Democrat, back up, BKP. You've got two Republican mayors in Valdosta and Tifton, the city of Valdosta and Tifton, endorsing Jon Ossoff. And then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene not saying, quote, don't go vote, but is pushing anti-Republican vote in the 14th Congressional District, the plus 19 R19 District of Georgia. This is a counter. The 14th is big. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene the Democrats' best weapon in Georgia? The Democrats' best weapon in Georgia, right? Keisha Lance Bottoms and Jon Ossoff just got their biggest campaign gift of the year, and it came straight from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about why Rick Jackson took a picture with Mike Collins in the 14th. This is Politico. MTG tells, I don't know who this is. MTG says the third party movement forming around her and Tucker Carlson is already pulling serious interest from major donors. This is a quote. The support is overwhelming, Greene said. Her phone has been ringing nonstop since their virtual photo, and she's really surprised by how many large donors want to donate in a big way to help it. So this is from Politico. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, a.k.a. MTG, right? Go look at the article I wrote last week. If you want to see that, go August 5th. Let me back up really quick and go back to this. Go back to August 5th, 2026, right? 5 days ago. I wrote, is Marjorie Taylor Greene the Democrats' best weapon in Georgia? Read this article. It'll lay the groundwork on why Rick Jackson had to take a picture with Mike Collins in the 14th, had to show a unified front in the 14th, because this is danger zone. Sean Harris, remember Sean Harris, the candidate for the 14th Congressional District? So Marjorie Taylor Greene over there in the 14th District, former Congresswoman from the 14th District, put out a picture last week. Remember her, Tucker Carlson, Joe Kent, and Thomas Massie planning out a third party movement. Remember also, I did a segment not even 10 days ago on the nonpartisan races, right? Remember that, the nonpartisan races and getting people on the ballot outside of Republican and Democrat. That's ballot access. So they're going for a third party, and there's no coincidence. She's ramping this up in August, going into September. Here is, now all of a sudden, Tucker Carlson's friends with Hunter Biden. I don't know if my head itches or I got to scratch my head, or now all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden. Tucker Carlson's always been friends with Hunter Biden, but now Hunter Biden is coming out and says he likes Thomas Massie and he likes MTG. What kind of world is spinning around out there? Right? And it's happening in August, right before the midterms. No coincidence, folks, that this is happening. And this is basically, like I said, there's a percentage that we're not concerned will go vote Republicans for Jon Ossoff. There's a percentage of Republicans that may be upset with Donald Trump. And the third party group that may sit this one out. That's why Rick had to do it. See this one right here. Breaking. Former Trump official Joe Kent said he is leaving the GOP to back Thomas Massie's third party. Timing. Now that's happening everywhere. But the 14th District of Georgia, that's big. So now we have the Burt Jones voters. You got everything piled up in the 14th District. Sean Harris, the Democrat candidate running for the 14th Congressional District, really had a great turnout when he ran in the special election. He even got Fuller, right? Congressman Fuller, in a runoff in that race. And now he is still running, Sean Harris is, and he has a lot of money backing him. The Democrats are backing him with a lot of money in the 14th District. Well, you would think the 14th District is fool's gold for Sean Harris in the 14th District, the Democrat. Why would they pour money in? Why would he have so much money in his campaign? Because they know that's the R+19. They know Burt Jones had a pretty good turnout there. They know Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massie, Colton Moore, Joe Kent. They know there's a group that might not go vote. They know there's upside down bizarro world going on right now to the point that we don't know what voter turnout will be in the 14th District. And that's why Keisha Lance Bottoms absolutely loves Sean Harris, the Democrat candidate. Now, moving right along, I'm going to look at Floyd County. All right? Now, this is May 19th. This is Floyd County, May 19th primary. Now, keep in mind, there's several candidates on the ballot right now. But, you see, in Floyd County, against Rick Jackson, Burt Jones polled 4,492 votes, 4,492. In Floyd County, in the May 19th primary, Burt Jones, that's where they held this rally, Rome, Georgia, Floyd County. Burt Jones actually did better than Rick Jackson in the May 19th primary. Now, here is, I pulled a little tiny county, furthest corner up in the northwest part of Georgia, touching Tennessee, Dade County, Georgia. All right. Handful of votes, but Burt Jones had 964 votes to Rick Jackson's 591. This is May 19th. Remember that. Then I went and polled Whitfield County. Now remember, Whitfield County has a large Hispanic vote. Remember, Whitfield County is where the Dalton County, Nikki Loma. Remember, Whitfield County, Dalton, Georgia, where Dalton, Georgia is a large, very large Hispanic population. Nikki Loma, a Republican Dalton City Council member, resigned to run for the Georgia 9th Congressional District, and in his seat, a Democrat replaced him in Dalton. Remember that. Whitfield County, Dalton, Georgia, a Democrat replaced the last Republican on the Dalton City Council with a Democrat. Last Republican's gone. Whitfield County, large Hispanic population. I know I keep telling you that. I want to put all together. And in the May 19th primary, Burt Jones pulled off 2140 over 1395 of Rick Jackson. Now, I only went back to Whitfield County. I only went back to Whitfield County. Or was it Floyd? Pretty sure it's Whitfield County. I only went back to Whitfield County. In the June 19th, Rick Jackson did come out and beat Burt Jones. But remember, Burt Jones still got 45.61%. He still got 3,771. The only reason I show you all these numbers are those voters coming back. Actually, I let me correct that. Let's go back. I have this wrong. Let's go back. I apologize. Now, in the June 19th or June 18th runoff, right? Rick Jackson in Floyd County, this is Floyd County, he did win 4504 to Burt Jones 3777. But those are Floyd County numbers. Now, let's go to Dade County. Dade County was neck and neck. Burt Jones in the runoff got 834. Let's go to Whitfield County in the runoff. In Whitfield County, Burt Jones beat Rick Jackson in the runoff 3501 to 3148. He beat Rick Jackson in Whitfield County in the runoff. Now, the only reason in Dade County they were neck and neck, this little tiny county, Burt Jones and Rick Jackson. In Floyd County, where Rome is, where they had the rally Saturday, Rick Jackson edged out pretty strong numbers, Burt Jones in the runoff. But in Whitfield County, where Dalton is, Burt Jones in the runoff, 5265 to 31 to 47.35%. By about 400 votes, he beat him there. The reason I tell you that is all three of those counties, when you're in a runoff, those voters really wanted that candidate. In the primary election, it's one thing to go vote for a candidate. In a runoff, that's your candidate. That is your candidate. So to me, when I look at the numbers, there's 3777, then there's another 834, and then there's another 3,501 in the 14th district, right? That, hey, they want Burt Jones. That's one reason Rick went. Now, here's the other one. I'm going to give you the biggest one right here. Okay? This is Whitfield County. This is the runoff of Whitfield County. This is Mike Collins. Whitfield County, Mike Collins, 66% to Derek Dooley's 33%. I'm just telling you, Mike Collins has a much stronger base. Mike Collins, this is Whitfield County, right? I only pulled one county. This is the runoff. Mike Collins got 66.22% to Derek Dooley's 33.78%. So on Saturday, Rick Jackson has all of these elements running against him in the 14th district. It's called Marjorie Taylor Greene, A. B, it's called Burt Jones voters really wanted Burt Jones, B. It's called Mike Collins is really solid. The 14th district is the strongest district. Now, Mike Collins from the 10th district, maybe he's very strong in the 10th, but I will tell you the base Republican strength, the R plus 19 congressional district, the 14th, is strong for Mike Collins. So Rick Jackson needed that picture. Mike Collins could use it, but Rick Jackson needed the picture of him. See, Rick Jackson needed that picture Saturday. I'm just telling you. Now, they may take another picture down the line, but this is Rick Jackson needed in the 14th. So, that being said, let me get past that. Sorry about the little, being a little confusing on the. As Democrat socialists win, the Georgia GOP looks to capitalize, going after Mike Collins. So I'm telling you now, they will not let Mike Collins get out from under the boot the media has on his neck. They're not going to. But the AJC was excited to write Rick Jackson, Brian Kemp unite for the first time since the GOP primary. You see, Rick Jackson, immediately with Brian Kemp, they got a picture together because Rick Jackson needed that picture and Brian Kemp has his entire team. Rick Jackson's paying Brian Kemp's whole entire team to work for him. Absolutely. Mike Collins doesn't have the money to hire any of these people. Brian Kemp's out campaigning for Rick Jackson. Rick Jackson's over there using Mike Collins in the 14th. Hey, it's politics, right? So I want to talk about one more thing before we close with the Rick Jackson campaign. And I want to show you something. I went to Pickens County. This is Appalachian Gun and Pawn. This guy is, Ralph. I don't know Ralph's last name. I just know Ralph and Kim are the owners. Ralph is a great guy. He gets out there. He's grilling hot dogs. You see, he's got his grill going. He's got hot dogs. You can get a little mustard and ketchup. And they're giving away free hot dogs to come to Appalachian Gun and Pawn I want you to take note of the picture to see Rick Jackson. And here is Ralph on the stump in front of Appalachian Gun and Pawn. Now, this is in Pickens County, Georgia. Jasper went for Donald Trump 82%. Here he is endorsing Rick Jackson from the podium. Here is a little bit of, they were saying a prayer. This is Ralph opening up the event in prayer. And here is the Rick Jackson bus with the sparse crowd. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this right here. When Rick Jackson announced he was running for governor, he held an event maybe 3 weeks after his announcement he was running for governor, right in the 1st of March. He announced in February, he held an event in March at Appalachian Gun and Pawn. The size of that event was double. The first event was double the size. I've had people say a couple hundred, but there's a couple things about this event that I noticed when I went. I'm going to say 120. I can't go any higher than 120. When I go to an event, I pick 10 people, and then I go 10, 20, 30, and I get pretty close. I never want to mislead this audience, but I can't go over 120. And for the most part, a lot of the ones in the audience, political posturing, GOP chairs, vice chair, first vice chair of a party, or a House rep, state Senate rep, people with them, whatever. So, and the other thing here is the senior citizens. Or as Rush, what did we call them? Seasoned. Did Rush used to call them seasoned citizens? Right? So let me get another picture up. Here's Mr. Jackson with his hat on, shading the sun, addressing the crowd. Here's a little side profile view of people in the crowd. All right, very hot day. Here's another one. I went to another area to take a picture. I mean, it was a crowd, but another quick one here. So let me say this before I close this. I go through all the pictures. There's a couple things of notice here. I go through all the pictures. And I want to save this for another segment at a different time. But what I'm noticing in these pictures of most of these events, and I say most of these events, is the political posturing. People coming in to try to make a political connection. And some people don't like when Republican and you call them establishment Republican or whatever. We will call them establishment Republicans, and we will call them pre-2020 Republicans. All right? And what I mean by that when I say pre-2020 Republicans, pre-November 2020 Republicans, before that election. You see, the Georgia Republican Party had a much different leadership group. And after 2020's election, different people came in. And I'll break that down so I can really identify. It's the 2016. I want to do a whole segment on this so you know. It's the 2016. Let me get this. It's the pre-Donald Trump. Let's go there. Pre-2016, the transition in 2016 to 2020, the 2020 after, and it's like you're starting to see faces come back into these events that were pre-2016 Donald Trump through the first administration 2016. You're starting to see a transition of those faces come back into the pictures, the political posturing, and I will explain that at a later time. Here's the other thing. Rick Jackson is doing absolutely amazing with the 55, 60 plus white voter. Amazing. 55, 60 plus white voter. He's doing great. My biggest concern is, what do they have planned for the 18 to 40 group, those voters, and bringing them in? What's the plan? Because the same campaign stump speech is playing to the 55, 60 and older white, property tax, same stump speech. I'm not hearing thus far, and maybe it's planned in the 87 million he has in an ad buy, but I'm not hearing thus far the attraction to the 18 to 40. And I don't know if Keisha Lance Bottoms burning down Atlanta and her husband flying to the Super Bowl on taxpayer money, I don't know if that's going to be enough. because what I am concerned about right now with Rick Jackson is his voters are baked in. You know, don't you hate that comment? Baked in. Because I will tell you, I brought up the Burt Jones voters. And I'm not sore. So quit saying that. And don't say to me, get over it. None of that. That's not my problem. I didn't create this. You got it? But I know why the picture was taken with Mike Collins Saturday. I've explained that. Because I will tell you this. There was an event Rick Jackson was at that he didn't take a picture. And that's right here. You see, at the GOP marksmanship event, Rick Jackson was at that event. I've seen the pictures. And so was the GOP chairman, Josh McCoon. And if you have a picture of Josh McCoon, the GOP chairman, who in the podcast with the AJC that I reported had Rick Jackson had not even returned a phone call to, the same Josh McCoon of the Georgia GOP that in every impression you could get, totally and completely supported Burt Jones over Rick Jackson. He will not say he did, but did. There's no picture of the party chair and Rick Jackson. They were at the same event. There would have been an opportunity to show that unity, and it's not there yet. Okay? Because, see, right now, the only thing Rick Jackson needed Josh McCoon of the Georgia GOP for was ballot access. Ballot access. Now, Rick Jackson, I'll leave you this right here, had a meeting with farmers. All right? Today's Monday. I'll wait till about Wednesday because I am waiting to see him in a picture with a certain South Georgia farmer. I will put that out there. I need to see a certain South Georgia farmer because a picture with that farmer and Rick Jackson would give farmers the green light, a lot of them the green light. Just saying. So, that's all I have. That's it. That's it. So continue. Do me, do they say a solid? I don't know what the kids are saying nowadays. I really don't. I don't know what they're saying. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Is that what they say? I don't know. Do me a solid. I don't know. But continue. Whatever you do, continue to write me. All right, so someone, I was at that event in Pickens Saturday, and a person walked up to me. I really like this person, but there's been some friction in the past. We'll leave it there. And this person walked up to me and said, you know, nothing bothers me any more than to have to give you kudos for something. And I said, yeah, I know you'd rather do anything than that. And you know, I said, but you know I love you, right? And they gave me a look. We'll put it that way. But I have to give you kudos for the MTG article you wrote. But, you know, I'd rather not, but I have to. And I said, okay. I said, you know, I know you're not going to like every article I write, and I'm glad you like that one. But you never know about the next one. So if you like an article, tell me. If you don't like it, tell me. No uglies. I don't have time for your crap. I don't have time for your crap. Go on. But if you want to write me a long critique, go ahead. You see anything the way I see this, and hey, let me just say, I think you're on to something, but this, please do. Thank you. If you understand this comment, please share with me how you understand this. So I'm going to close today with, we're going to take a break. I thank you, and my shrimps thank you. That was strange.